He says, I remember it all. Oh, how well I remember. The feeling of hitting the bottom. There's one other thing I remember, and remembering I keep a grip on hope. Yeah. God's loyal love couldn't have run out. His merciful love couldn't have dried up. Yeah. They're created new every morning. How great your faithfulness. Yes. I'm going to read it one more time. And I want you to put this in perspective of your own life. Ooh, hallelujah. God's loyal love couldn't have run out. His merciful love couldn't have dried up. They're created new every morning. Yeah. How great is your faithfulness? Yeah. Amen. If you have moments you want to use for a thought today, there is hope. There is hope. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to shout already. The night phlox plant, a South African native, is a special and preferred plant to grow in what botanical experts call a moon garden. Seeds take as little as 7 to 14 days to germinate. As far as the care of this particular plant, the optimal situation is for it to grow in large containers or planted in the ground. Preference of rich, well-draining soil and water regularly. Secured at least 12 to 18 inches apart from one another to permit good circulation and keep the soil moist. I'm going somewhere. Night phlox is a beautiful vision because of the different shades it blows. White, purple, and even maroon captures a photogenic moment. Gaze at this landscape, pleasant colors is what initially grabs your attention, but it's the sweet fragrance of vanilla, honey, and almond that holds it hostage. This heirloom plant that is easy to care for, assembled in stunning shades, graced with breathtaking, catching aromas, is actually considered unique. Don't miss this, because the beauty of its blossoming is conserved for the night. It blossoms at night. In fact, it is nicknamed the midnight candy as a result of its reaching the grace of its potential during a dark time. What a marvel. Story behind this example, God's artistry suggests that just because something matriculates in the dark does not mean it lacks the beauty to be admired in the light. There is hope. Many of us, though not planted in a scenic garden, still possess this same testimony that during an inconvenient season, darkness managed the backdrop of your life. We've all been there. We've all experienced a dark day, unable to meet financial obligations, a dark day. Health issues that you have no control over, a dark day. The tragic or unexpected loss of a loved one, a dark day. When households in poverty-stricken neighborhoods have to budget their money and decide between health care, food, or keeping the lights on, a dark day. Having your heart discarded as trash by people who have no interest or consideration of the aftermath you have to deal with in putting back the pieces together, a dark day. Church community across this nation is shocked at the news of prominent leader, author, advocate for health and mental illness, Jared Wilson, takes his own life at the age of 30 years old. A dark day. Pain and stress of seeing people you care about go through unimaginable circumstances you can't change. A dark day. Death and devastation that is a result of a hurricane named Dorian wreaking havoc on the Bahamas. A dark day. When Tanya McDowell, a black homeless mother from Bridgeport, Connecticut, is sentenced to 5 years in jail for enrolling her son in a school district they didn't live in so that he can receive a better education. But Felicity Hoffman participates in the nation's largest college admissions scandal because she paid to have her daughter's SAT scores inflated and only gets 14 days in jail. It's a dark day. When the Browns at home on opening day get blown out 43-13. It's a dark day. I got some help right now. But the child of God, this shocks me because even though hours of darkness are inevitable in life, it's during those occasions that God uses the moonlight time that you might blossom in areas you haven't grown in. It's because of those dark moments you blossom in the time you spend with God in devotion. Because of those dark moments, you know God in a more intimate way. Because of those dark moments, you've experienced the peace and joy of our Lord. Those dark moments, you blossom in your strength to endure and go through. Because of those dark moments, you don't live life ignorantly falling for the same tricks or making the same mistakes. Your testimony has blossomed. Your prayer life has blossomed. Because the fact remains, before you went through some of those dark moments, you remember you would pray those cute, churchy prayers. It sounded something like this: Dear God, my heavenly Father, the creator of heaven and earth, ruler of all existence, it is I, your servant. I come to you on bended knees with a bowed down head, seeking your righteous direction. Touch now my Father's children. It sounded real good before those dark moments in life. But after you went through something, there were moments in life you didn't have time to be cute and churchy, but you started talking to God in the car, just people in the car riding with you, and it sounded something like this: God, I need you. And I need you now. I don't have to work. I need you to just like I want you. But God, I need you to do something in my life. That's your testimony. Let everybody go back down, live on the way, and see how your prayer life has changed. Child God, I need you saints in the building that can witness and tell somebody, I don't care how bad it looks, how dark it seems, how impossible the bounce back may be, how intense the pain may feel, there is hope. There is hope. Our text today, from verses 1 through 18, we see a type of suffering that, when put into perspective, defines a situation you never want to experience. This is our writer's third lament. Some scholars call this chapter the heart of Lamentations. It's here we witness in all the most intimate depths of this author's suffering. Somewhat build familiarity, we can narrow down the potential writers for this book by comparing the similarities Jeremiah expresses he lived to this body of work. Doing so, it would make sense to safely say the prophet Jeremiah is responsible for the penmanship of this book. After predicting the judgment of Jerusalem, he now sits surrounded by the debris and ruins. These are the very consequences of God's anger displayed against the nation. The Bible opens up in verse 1, I am the man that have seen affliction by the rod of his wrath. We must highlight the fact that in this stanza of words, he does not initiate with the expressive cry of E-Y-K-A, which is a Hebrew word that implies surprise and sorrow. In our English dictionary, it's simply how. He decides to start this poetic picture differently than he did in chapters 1 and 2. That being said, Jeremiah makes sure we get a front row seat as he allows for us to grow closer and range to the suffering he endures. Suffering that is real and personal. Verse 2 goes on to say, he hath led me and brought me into darkness, but not into light. For he proceeds to give us private details of what he is faced with. He identifies the one responsible for the violence and punishment he suffers from. Prophet doesn't put a name to the face, if you will, but he uses the pronoun he. Jeremiah later reveals who he is in verse 18. He is the Lord. This puts us, as the readers, in an awkward predicament. Why? Notice the contrast it erects that we must now work through. He paints a picture that is both surprising and frightening. On one side of the record is the glorified power of the Lord's presence. And on the other side, we see God's absolute rejection of any communion and connection with the sufferer. Just take inventory. Verses 2 and 6, he compels his victims to walk in darkness. Verses 5 and 7, he has constructed barriers as if to more intently isolate them. In verses 8, he ignores their prayer. Verse 9, he blocks out all escape routes. Room in a theology where we were taught God's presence is a positive encounter. Here our writer depicts the amazement of God's presence being negative. He, with his words, creates the paradox of God being present, yet absent at the same time. His presence terrifying rather than soothing. Jeremiah goes on in verse 14 to inform us that he becomes the primary target of laughter and mockery amongst people. Verse 15, the food he is forced to consume makes life unbearable. 17, he has no peace and can't even remember what good living is. Yes, verse 18, he hits rock bottom and gives up hope. The wailing cry, don't miss this. The wailing cry of this weeping prophet concerning the rigidness of his journey suggests that you and I too may or will undergo moments in life just like this, where God is present but seems absent, nowhere to be found, as if you've lost connection and communion with the security net of this world. Moments where light has been traded in for darkness. Moments when you feel isolated, or if your prayers aren't even penetrating the ceiling, let alone making it to God. Moments where you, no matter how much you squirm, resist, or run, you can't get out of what you are dealing with. Moments when confused because you know God is there, but he refuses to act. Moments where you feel like the punchline of society's jokes. Moments that continuing on seems impossible and unbearable. Moments where peace is a mystery and the memory of when life was good had vanished. Moments when you no longer have the stamina to believe or hope yourself through. If you're sitting here this morning thinking to yourself, I've never experienced any of that, if I can quote the words of my grandmother, the gospel according to Becky Jean Watson, she would simply say, keep on living. Keep on living. Job 14:1 rearranges her words and puts it like this. Man that is born of a woman is of a few days and full of trouble. Life can flat out beat you up, knock you down, stand you back up again, and beat on you some more. Life can be lonely, scary, and depressing. Life can cause you to look for peace in all the wrong areas. Life can feel like prison with no exit. But even though the stress of life is real and tangible, Jeremiah does not leave us hanging in the pity of bad news. We have a treehouse view as he transitions from the unimaginable pain to the regeneration of hope in the Lord. Theologian John Vernon McGee calls these next few verses the only bright spots in all 5 of the Lamentations. Verses 19:21 says, remembering my affliction and misery, wormwood and gall. My soul hath them still in remembrance, and is humbled in me. This I recall to my mind, therefore have I hope. He says, remembering. That word literally means, in its original language, to properly mark. He finds enough substance in what he went through. Don't miss this. That he puts a stamp on the rough patches of life so that it stands out in his memory. He says, remembering my affliction and my misery. In doing so, it produces two things. It's right there in the text. It produces humility and hope. That word humble in this text gives the idea of one's soul bending down within a person. His past tribulation serves as a mirror and confirms he needs God to make it through in life. Then it goes on to say, therefore have I hope. Therefore have I hope. Therefore have I hope. That word, therefore, is key to this next point. It means to properly set or stand upright, to establish. Jeremiah, in one word says, because I've endured, I have hope. Huh? Because I've endured, I have hope. And I see the confusion on your face too. The humility part makes sense, Jeremiah. But how does going through hell-like trials give you hope? Glad you asked. Find our answer right there in verse 22, where he says, it is of the Lord's mercy that we are not consumed, because his compassion fails not. The Lord's mercies, God's unexecuted punishment, him withholding from us what we really deserve. See, the survivor understood, even though he suffered plenty, the penalty should have resulted in complete destruction, wiped out, gone, no more. But because he is still alive to remember what he went through, it gives him hope for a new day. In other words, Jeremiah's suggests, don't you ever forget what life throws your way, because the consequences of sin should have been a cold grave. But since you are still alive to remember what you have went through, that gives you hope that God is still keeping you. Because the fact of the matter is, it should have and could have been worse. In other words, you may not live in Pepper Pike, but thank God for the roof over your head. You may not be able to afford to go to Ruth Chris, but you better thank God for the chicken and roast beef you got in the deep freezer. You may not be in perfect health, but thank God you woke up this morning. You may not drive a luxury vehicle, but thank God for the little engine that continues to get you from protein to point B. I need somebody in the building to run your neighbor and tell your neighbor, don't you ever forget what you're going through. Because in the times you should have been dead a long time ago. But God continues to let you up. Don't you ever forget. It says, verse 23, they are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. He says, new every morning. He said the opportunity to experience this fresh compassion of God is made available every day. You are privileged to open your eyes. New every morning. Then he closes out, great is thy faithfulness. Prophet has endured darkness, isolation, ignored prayers, mental, emotional, and spiritual confinement. God present, yet absent. He's endured mockery, lack of food, no peace or memory of a good day. He experienced loss of hope. And yet in verse 23, he has the audacity to fix his lips and say, great is thy faithfulness. Woo! Yes, Lord. See, Jeremiah puts the pieces. I'm trying to hold my peace, y'all.
Come on, Pastor.
Jeremiah puts the pieces of the puzzle back together again for us right here in this verse.
Yes.
He said, in spite of God's stern judgment, they were not consumed or totally wiped out because of the promise he made to Abraham.
Yes.
That an entire nation would be birthed out of him.
Yes.
He promised Moses that he would walk with them into the promised land.
Yes.
He promised Joshua that he would settle them there.
Yes.
And he promised David that there would come one out of his lineage that would reign on the throne forever.
Yes.
As I close, shouting God, the only reason why there is still hope is because God's promises never return unto him void. He keeps it and executes his objective. There is hope. Deuteronomy 31 verse 6 gives us hope. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. He'll never leave you nor forsake you. There is hope. Philippians chapter 4 verse 19. And my God shall supply all of your needs according to his riches and glory by Christ Jesus. There is hope. Romans chapter 8 verse 28. And we know that all things work together for the good of them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. There is hope. Psalms 30 and 5. For his anger endures but for a moment, and his favor is in life. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. And here's the good news: even after life, there is hope. 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 8. For we are confident, and I say willing, rather to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. I close today, I'm going to encourage everybody in the building, no matter what you are going through.